Nate, would you lead us in the pledge tonight, please? You'd remain standing for just a minute, please. Heavenly Father, as I have asked you many times over the past 6 years, I ask you once again tonight for guidance for everyone involved, as tonight we will make a history-changing decision for our city of Pataskala, our school system, and for all of Licking County. You, O Lord, have heard many prayers over the years, along with the blood, sweat, and tears that has been invested in this forward-thinking vision. We pray tonight for the right decisions, not only for the city, but our children and future generations to come. Let us hope and pray that future mayors, future school superintendents, future councilmen and women, future commissioners, and all of our businessmen will look admirably at what we do here tonight with your blessings. And we ask for this tonight in your holy name. Amen. Okay, Kathy, roll call, please.
Fox,
Present.
Hayes,
Here.
Barstow,
Here.
Lee,
Here.
Picken,
Here.
Walter,
Here.
Carter,
Here.
There you go. Okay, we have a quorum present.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Hicken?
I would like to make a change to the scheduled council meeting agenda.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to amend
the agenda.
amend the agenda.
Okay.
I would like to move Section 8B, resolutions, to immediately after the tabled ordinance 4247, which would be, first, I would like to have 2016058, then 2016057.
We have a motion on the floor. Need a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Walter. Any discussion? And roll.
Hayes,
Yes.
Barstow,
No.
Lee,
Yes.
Picken,
Yes?
Walter,
Yes.
Carter,
I'm going to recuse myself from that vote.
Fox,
I will be recusing myself per Ohio Revised Code because I did $52 of business with Licking Heights School District last year, which, Mr. Superintendent, we no longer do business together.
Appropriate for here, point of order?
Is that a yes or a no?
I recused myself,
Okay,
Mr. Mayor.
recused himself, so we have 2 recusals and
And
4.
a point of order, I believe you're required to state why you're recusing yourself per state law.
I'm an employee of Licking Heights School District.
Thank
I'm
you.
not voting on any of it.
Okay, the motion passes. So 8B, the resolutions is now placed after.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. I
Yes.
mean, I just, I question, I'm just wondering why we had 2 members who recused themselves, but we have another council member who's an employee of one of the school districts who didn't recuse herself, and I'm curious. It's a bit of a dichotomy.
I was told I didn't have to recuse myself to remove a resolution to a different spot in the agenda.
Okay.
Under, yeah,
Okay.
just the movement.
Well, I was just going to say, Mr. Zetz, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're just reordering the agenda at this point, so the recusals that did take place probably didn't necessarily have to at this point. When we start considering the actual legislation is when the recusal should take place.
Discussion and voting is what you would recuse
Correct.
yourself from, so.
Some clear direction on that would have,
Yep. All right, doesn't matter.
Get ahead of time.
Motion passes. 8B's moved to after ordinance 2015-4247. So, citizens' comments. Anybody wish to speak tonight? And if you do, hopefully your name's on this list, and then you'll have 5 minutes to speak. I'll need your name and address. And who we're going to start with, Eileen?
My name is Eileen Duroff, 12520 Refugee Road, Pataskala, Ohio. I'd like to speak to this decision as to whether Pataskala will accept the current deal with AEP for the purchase of at least 100 acres of the JRS site. Having studied the chart that explains the way the money's to be divided amongst the various involved entities, it appears Pataskala's share is ridiculously, I might even say insultingly, small. When a school system will get $5 million over 15 years, and this city, who has to maintain these roads so that children can get to school, will barely have enough money to maintain the road, I just don't even know what's going on here. I mean, it's like two wolves chatting with a sheep and deciding who's for dinner. Knowing it's critical that this city maximizes the income garnered from all 300 acres to eliminate basically any significant, or at least a deal that has to be better if Licking County CIC manages to bring you something good. This will have killed 1/3 of your land, and I would assume 1/3 of your ultimate income basically off of the total 300 acres. I mean, that's a big decision to make unless you are sure that this is a good deal, because it guides what happens behind it. I'm saying I respectfully submit for me and for the citizens of this town that you either replace this language and get a better deal, although I just think this 18 to 20 employees over 15 years, you know, you got Amazon over here, you got Aetna just breaking loose, and we get 15 to 18 employees over 15 years? Be patient. You know, there's only so much land, and you're sitting good. If the CIC does its job, it's going to bring you good stuff. I don't believe this is it. And the fact that the school system likes $5 million, who doesn't? You would too if they were offering it to you, but they're not offering it to you. So please, please think about the long haul here, because you guys need money, because you got roads and you've got people pouring into this town to live here. And it's going to cost bundles to keep them all happy. So thank you very much for this time, as always.
Okay, anybody else wish to speak?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Fox?
I would like to ask the law director a question. Since I have recused myself from discussion on this, am I permitted to speak on the merits as a citizen?
I would not if it was me.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Mr.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Pataskala City Council. My name is Lowell Marks. I've lived in Pataskala 17 years.
Your address, sir?
345 Edmundary Lane.
Okay.
I know that 17 years is not a long time for residents, but I've been here long enough to have lived through some of the growing pains and decisions the city has endured, including the implementation of the income tax. A little background: I grew up in Columbus, graduated from Ohio State, served 23 years as an Army officer, moving 19 times in those 23 years. I bought and owned homes in many places and had my children educated in many school districts. I had Korean, Japanese, U.S., German, and Dutch civilian workforces in my employment. I led and supervised. My last job in the Netherlands, I was the contracting officer representative for a $57 million a year contract between the Dutch Ministry of Defense and the U.S. Army Europe. And I was the contracting officer representative, and we renegotiated. I was a principal in renegotiating that contract. Additionally, I earned an MBA and worked as a management budget analyst for 10 years. So I'd like to address Resolutions 57 and 58 that are before the council tonight. The agreement negotiated with AEP for investment in the Pataskala Corporate Park. I have reviewed the agreements that have been arrived through a lengthy negotiation. One of the MBA courses I found interesting was that of negotiation, and the emphasis was on the goal of a win-win result. The agreement before you strongly appears to be one of win-win. Neither side in a negotiation gets everything they may desire. But achieving an agreement that moves the entity forward is usually a good one. This agreement does that. No one wants to pay more taxes, but sometimes the benefit is worth the cost. There is one overriding reason why home values in Upper Arlington and other locations such as Granville, and that reason is the school system. People who care pay to ensure their children receive the best of education. And result is the value of their homes increases accordingly. Remember, the increase in value of your primary residence is not taxable when sold. This strongly argues for a well-supported education and school system. The revenue from this agreement will certainly do that. This agreement serves the taxpayers well. I and other taxpayers will be asked for less school money and taxes. And in return, we may be more inclined to want to support other taxes that may come from the city, whether it's additional income tax or bond issues needed to repair and improve the infrastructure, such as recreation programs and park development. The infrastructure of any political entity is certainly a key element in the attraction of business and investment. Clearly, this arrangement achieves a huge step in improving the infrastructure. Additionally, the political climate, the willingness to do business with industry is another important element for business attraction. Clearly, other business elements are looking closely at how Pataskla goes about the negotiation and implementation of agreements in the corporate part. The bottom line is, does Pataskla move forward, negotiate agreements, approve in a timely manner, and achieve win-win negotiations? To those who say get a better deal, I ask, where is that deal and when will it be done? The old saying, a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush, applies. And there isn't even any bird in the bush as we address this agreement. In summary, please vote in favor of resolutions 57 and 58. Move Pataskla forward, serve the taxpayers, and send a message to corporate America that Pataskla is open for business and ready to deal. And thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? All right. Introduction, discussion, and approval of consent agenda matters.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Fox, seconded by Mr. Hicken. Discussion and roll.
Fox,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Walther,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Okay, consent agenda passes. Any desire to take ordinance 2015-4247 off the table?
Move to take that off the table.
Motion by Mr. Walther,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Barstow. Discussion and roll, please.
Barstow,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Hicken,
No.
Walther,
Yes.
Carter,
I'm recusing myself from the vote.
Fox,
I recuse myself from the vote.
Hayes,
I recuse myself as well.
One no. Okay, motion passes. It's off the table. discussion?
Discussion. I wanted to ask a quick question on the number of readings that have happened so far with this ordinance. Is this the second reading?
No, we've had 3 readings and then
Had
it
three.
was tabled.
We had 3 readings, okay. Yeah, I want to make, I guess I'll start with the discussion, Mayor. You know, I guess I'm gonna make some statements that some of my other council members can't make up here. This compensation agreement has been sitting on the table since January here at council. A lot of discussions were made last year regarding this compensation agreement with Licking Heights. I guess the agreement couldn't be ratified at that time. We had nobody in the business park looking at property, but unfortunately, this agreement couldn't be agreed to at that time. I think there was even some people on the Licking Heights board that said they weren't going to listen, or they weren't going to hear this agreement any further. They weren't going to ratify it. So now, fast forward to today's date, we do have somebody in the business park looking, and now we have a compensation agreement in front of us to be heard tonight as a resolution that we're expected to pass in the form that it's in. And I've got a lot of questions regarding that resolution, but we'll get to that. But what I do want to do is I want to bring council's attention to this tabled, now off the table ordinance, and I'd like to make some amendments to it so that we have something that we've passed prior to the compensation agreement that is before us for later this evening. So that's my part of the discussion. I don't want to amend at this point. Is there anybody else wants to discuss?
Any other discussion?
Well,
Aiken?
I mean, if obviously you heard my vote not to put it off the table, I wasn't sure exactly what the purpose was to do that, and I'd have to see what the amendments are, obviously, before I would consider anything further. But I'll just leave it at that. Let's see what the amendments are since it's already been taken off the table.
Any other discussion? What are your amendments?
Okay, the first amendment I'd like to do is include Southwest Licking as part of this compensation agreement. So wherever Licking Heights is included, I'd like to include Southwest Licking. That would be my first amended item. You want me to go through the list now? Just go through all the amendments?
Or do you want to?
Or you want to do one at a time?
Mr. Zetz, what's probably the best way to do that?
Unfortunately, the best way is probably go one at a time so you can vote each one up or down.
Okay.
I think that's right.
Hey, Mayor, real quick.
Yes.
Should these be made as motions to amend, Brian, at this time, or?
That's what they are.
I thought that's
That's
what
what
it
it
was.
is.
Okay,
Motion
I didn't
to
know you
amend.
were making
Just,
the
yeah,
motions
but we're going to do
now.
them individually instead of
Correct.
one list. Perfect.
Well, I guess. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I've been recognized. When the agreement that was tabled was indeed tabled, the only. I'm
Tim,
sorry.
hang on just one second.
I
Kathy,
think we need a second and then discussion.
on the motion to amend?
That's right.
Okay. So Andy's made a motion to amend. I need a second.
I think that it would make more sense, and if we can't, we can't, but it would make more sense to me to see all of the amendments together. If we have to vote on them individually, that's one thing, but I'd like to see all of them
How
or
many do
hear
you
all
have,
of them
Mr. Walther?
before we
Yes.
Four.
start piecing this out. Is that doable?
Why doesn't Mr. Walther withdraw his motion? Talk generally about what he would like
Okay.
to see his amendment, and then you can officially decide what you want to actually amend.
I withdraw my motion.
Okay. Motion withdrawn.
All right. So
Discussion.
the ideas that I would have for this is to include Southwest Licking, wherever Licking Heights is included. I would make a motion to strike the language that in section 2 of this agreement, which is payment to the school district. Additionally, I would want to include the statement that this agreement does not pertain to the 100-acre AEP site, and that this compensation agreement would be deemed void. I'm sorry. Let me go back just a moment. This would not apply to the AEP 100-acre site unless that compensation agreement is deemed void for any reason. So those are 3 items.
So that last one again does not pertain to the 100 acres.
The AEP site that's on the other,
Unless-
that's on the resolution for tonight. Unless that compensation agreement is deemed void for any reason.
unless 2016-057
Correct. That would be my discussion.
is deemed. Okay.
That's it. There's three.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Actually, that's,
Do you have a copy of this written out?
I don't have it written out, but I can provide that for you.
include Southwest Licking, strike language on the payment to the school district does not pertain to the 100 acres that AEP unless 057 is deemed void. That's 3.
That's correct. It's 3 with 1 having 2 parts.
Okay,
So I'll give you that.
A and B.
A and B.
Oh, okay. Just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything there. Okay, so you have the 3 items that Andy's brought to the surface for discussion. Mr. Hicken.
Well, I'll start off with a general discussion item, which is trying to figure out exactly what, in the framework of the negotiation between the city and the school districts, doing what this gets us. Any negotiation per se needs to include just 2 sides. And I know, first of all, I know that one side has not entered into any type of negotiation at all with this. And I don't know why we would expect either school district to say, okay, because one school district would say circumstances have changed, and the other one would say we've never discussed this in any way, shape, or form. So I'm kind of trying to figure out the logic of that. The second part is, it was well said earlier that when you enter into an agreement, both sides, 3 sides, 4 sides, whoever it happens to be, everybody is going to have to give up something. And I don't know what striking the language as it relates to payments, how does that mean that each individual side is giving up something? What are we giving up? What are they giving up? And I guess I can stop right there until I hear some more discussion about this.
Your logic on these?
PJ, can you give us a synopsis of what your discussions were on the compensation agreement that's on resolution 2016-057? How much discussion did you have with the schools, both school districts, the county commissioners, and how much involvement and input did we have in what that agreement says?
Sure. The history of the discussions we had with this entire project, and I'm going to talk about the entire project instead of specific, just the compensation agreement at first. As council is aware, there were 2 or 3 meetings where there were council representatives, AEP representatives, school district representatives, county commissioner representatives. Nate Strum was there. It was kind of a global discussion to talk about what the project was, potentially what taxes would be generated from it, et cetera. And there were 2 or 3 of those that were very similar meetings with it. I recall that the school districts had a meeting a couple weeks ago where they entered to executive session. I don't know what was discussed in that executive session, what the outcome was. And then I had a meeting with the superintendents a week ago this past Friday where the numbers that are on here were shared with me. And that is what was approved by the school districts as far as a compensation agreement.
Is that previously agreed by the school districts, or after that meeting agreed to?
I believe Licking Heights had agreed to it at that point. I don't recall when Southwest Licking had their meeting. I know the county commissioners just met this morning on it.
Okay, did you have any discussions with county commissioners?
In regards to the
Compensation agreement?
not the compensation numbers.
So we didn't have any discussion with the county about it, and we essentially didn't have any discussion with the school districts.
The county were in those meetings that we had previously with city representatives, but there wasn't a whole lot of talk about tax sharing or incentives.
Okay, so did we make any requests for tax sharing with them?
Specific requests, obviously we were looking to see what the best deal for the city could be with this. We knew it was going to be small income tax dollars for this, as we know. We know that AEP was going to pay a pilot on this. There was going to be personal property tax. We were trying to get to the best deal we could for the city, knowing it was going to be low income tax dollars on this.
Did the schools were aware that we were not going to receive very much money from this?
Correct.
And that was very clear.
From the income tax, yes.
From the income tax.
Correct.
That's pretty clear.
Yes.
Across the board. Nobody's hiding that.
Everybody, yeah.
Everybody knew that.
Oh, certainly.
So we really weren't at the table during these negotiations.
Everybody knew we were going to get small. We were going to collect a small portion of our 1%. On our 1%, we were going to get our jet income tax, which was still going to be pretty small portion of, or a small amount of income tax alone, just the income tax alone, that would be collected on this property. If we were looking at income tax just alone.
On the resolution for the compensation agreement 057, there's a part of that that says if the income tax goes over $1 million, that we're required to negotiate with schools, renegotiate the income tax with the schools. Were we ever asked about that, or did we agree to that in any way, shape, or form?
That is a state statute that is in play.
Statute?
That is boilerplate language from a state statute that exists. And correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but that is boilerplate language that exists in the state statute, in the revised code, as it relates to tax incentives that are granted by school districts.
You're correct.
Do you know if that? Go ahead, Todd.
Well, I mean, that statute came into effect in September of this year, the 5709.82. So that, and Section C says that if the city operates under certain sections of Chapter 7 of the revised code, that the renegotiate the $1 million kick-in and then the mandatory renegotiation doesn't apply if the activity happens in a JED. So I'd ask the law director to look at that statute and determine if
We don't necessarily operate under Chapter 7 because we're a chartered municipality. I think when they talk about operating under Chapter 7 means I'm not a chartered municipality.
I'm not the law director, so I just saw those. I thought there's two things there. So it would appear that whether or not it happens in the JED doesn't make any difference. But if just so everyone knows, if you can't come to an agreement within 6 months of the payroll hitting $1 million, then there's a formula in Section D of 570982 that talks about how the dollars are going to get shared. So just so we know what would happen if there isn't a compensation agreement. And I think it's 50% of the revenues less a deduction for infrastructure payments or something. There's a formula. I don't want to get into it. It's a big, long, honking thing, but.
And that's correct.
Okay.
Okay, so, Mr. Hicken, that's the reasoning behind this, is that we really weren't at the table to discuss this resolution that's in front of us. That's my understanding from the research I've done.
The resolution that's in front of us is 20154247.
I understand. I'm talking about the resolution this is an ordinance, the resolution that will be in front of us later this evening.
So how does the ordinance relate to the resolution?
My understanding is that we don't have the ability to change the resolution that's been presented to us has to be passed in the form that we received it. That's what I understand.
Ordinance.
Resolution I'm speaking of.
Resolution 57 is what he's talking about. It had our resolution 057 has already been approved in the form that it's in front of us by 3 out of the 4 taxing bodies so far, those being the school districts and also the county commissioners.
That's correct. So 100 acres is under that resolution, 057. The remainder of the property is now under whatever compensation agreement is agreed to by those agencies, unless the other municipalities or the other authorities to that agreement want to come back to the table and discuss it. That meaning the 057 agreement.
Mr. King?
One thing I don't want to mix up here is we certainly have 2 different resolutions on the table tonight. One is 057 as it relates to compensation agreements with the different taxing bodies. The other one is completely different, and that's 058. And that has to do with approving an enterprise zone abatement for the AEP project. Those are 2 separate things. The enterprise zone, and I know I'm probably jumping ahead here, but the enterprise zone tax abatement can be approved, and this is, I know we're going to get to it, can be approved separate from the resolution on the compensation agreement. The enterprise zone tax abatement has also been approved by 3 out of 4 taxing bodies. In order for it to be granted, we would have to grant it approval for that to move forward. I didn't want this all to mix up in one big ball. We have separate issues that we're dealing with tonight.
Okay, I guess my final comment on it then would be, we're still talking here about passing an ordinance that has heretofore has not been, as far as we know, negotiated in any way, shape, or form.
That's correct, Tim. It'd have to go back to the schools.
And Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
May I say, I mean, that would be the same procedure that was used for us to get to Resolution 57. Is that,
Exactly.
that's tit for tat. That's not a swear jar problem, is it?
No.
Okay, it's tit for tat. I'll say it again. I mean, the other people passed, and I don't recall there being a lot of involvement on our part. They just, the way I understand it, they presented it to us and said, "Here you go." So, you know.
I don't know. I don't know that I totally agree with that characterization, but I appreciate the tit for tat comment in it as much as it. I mean, it kind of shows where some thoughts lie when it comes to this issue. So, okay. I don't know. I'm kind of monopolizing time, and I don't know if Mr. Lee wants to talk.
Yeah, just briefly, of the three amendments that are proposed, what kind of has me questioning the amendments is I don't know that, obviously before we came on council in January, this ordinance had been agreed upon with Licking Heights. So I don't know that Southwest Licking has had the opportunity to negotiate this. So my question is, you know, I'm okay with considering moving forward with the one on the table, but I'm not sure that I can go with adding Southwest Licking to it just because I don't think they've had the opportunity to negotiate. Can you weigh in on that?
The one that was tabled in January, started in 15, was specific to Licking Heights School District. It had nothing to do with Southwest Licking School District. This is something that, and you're right, they didn't necessarily say, yeah, let's move forward with this one or anything. So no, they haven't had a chance to negotiate what this one is, no.
But we have with this, before we came on council, it had been.
We had discussions with Licking Heights about it, yeah.
Or it wouldn't be here, correct?
And this started about a year ago.
Right.
Well, it was introduced in December of 15, so almost a year ago.
Okay.
And that
Go ahead.
And that discussion was for specifically a unique situation. I don't know. I can never remember Project Gazpacho or. Is that correct?
No.
Well, what's
what you're talking about is previous Project Curie, but this was kind of the outcome of Project Curie, because where we had found ourselves a year ago today was we had a project that was ready to come into the corporate park, and they wanted a CRA abatement, which I think is different than this enterprise zone abatement when you start talking about it, because CRA is a true income tax and real property tax that we're talking about. This has this personal property tax. It is a very rare thing for anybody to really realize. It's rare anymore. So when we were working with Project Curie, we were talking about coming to a compensation agreement. Well, Project Curie decided to go out of state, go elsewhere. No doing of the city. It was all for renewable energy issues. So we started talking to Licking Heights, said, hey, let's try to get a global agreement in place for the corporate park so the next time this happens, we can move faster. And the outcome of that is this has been on the table since January of 16, January 19th of 16. So this was going to be a global agreement for the corporate park. What we're talking about wouldn't necessarily, if we had a global agreement for the corporate park, and we're looking right now at the project that we have in front of us, I would argue that this doesn't necessarily relate to that, because we're talking about something completely different right now when you start throwing personal property tax into the mix.
You mean a different agreement or a different additional agreement?
I would say it would be a different agreement for the AEP one, just because it's so different. When you start looking at what's in this thing, I don't think the current situation with the funding that's available being income tax, real property tax, and personal property tax would necessarily apply. This didn't take into account any personal property tax because it's a very rare thing.
Mr. Mayor? Well, yes, okay, and maybe this is more for Mr. Zatz. So I think what I'm thinking is that if the ordinance was passed, and then the Resolution 57 was passed, that Resolution 57 would trump the ordinance in the areas where the resolution applied, and we'd still have this ordinance. Is that what I'm hearing?
Unless you, okay.
Well, I was going to say, unless it's, Andy's amendment answered that question, which I was happy, sitting in my seat, I was happy to see, because then that takes away your question. But otherwise, I actually take a look at it, because I don't really know, because I wasn't really around when the ordinance was drafted, and I don't think we've done a side-by-side comparison of what Resolution 57 talks about compared to what Ordinance 4247 says. So I don't know how the two will interplay, to be honest with you.
Okay.
If you take Andy's amendment, that takes that question out of the realm, because he says it basically excludes the AEP acreage. So
That's what I mean. I guess you think you said it I think you said it better, but that's what I'm saying, is that in the areas where 57 would apply in this specific project, it would trump.
I don't know. I don't know how the two will interplay.
Okay.
Because I haven't actually read what, I don't know exactly how they are together, how they'll work together. Whether one trumps the other completely, or they just work together in the areas which the other is silent. I don't know. We'd have to sit down and take a look at the two.
Mr. King?
Oh, go ahead, Andy. Andy wanted to say something first.
So, I'm going to ask you, BJ. So we've been sitting on this for almost a year. We negotiated this a year ago. The schools came back to us. My understanding is, because this was before I was on council too, schools came back to us and said they were done talking about it. They weren't going to ratify it. Now we have a user in the corporate park. We have a compensation agreement in front of us that we pretty much have to get through tonight. What do you think the likelihood is that the next time on the other 200 acres, the balance of this site, that we're going to get anything agreed to prior to the next guy coming down the path? In your opinion.
I don't want to sit here and speculate, Andy. I don't know. I think that when this,
speculate.
Yeah, almost a year ago, I think there were a lot of different, it was a different time. I think that there were different issues going on. I don't want to sit here and speculate and say, no, we won't. My belief is we would. I'm hopeful that we would. And I think that we're able to, if we can get dirt moving in the corporate park, I think we're going to be able to start seeing a lot of development take off out there.
Any other discussion? Yes, sir.
And just to weigh in on the question about would this apply to the 100 acres, I think the intent is that this ordinance that's been there would apply to the remainder outside of the 100 acres for the corporate park. The 057 would be specific because it is somewhat of a different breed with personal property tax. It would be specific to 100-acre AEP, and then this one would apply, whatever other one there is, whether it's this or another way, would apply to the remainder of the corporate park.
So being thick-headed, what you're saying is take the AEP out so we can keep moving forward on that and keep looking at a compensation agreement for future development.
Well, I'll show my hand. I don't want to slow down AEP. I want them to be able to go forward. But I do want to get to the table with both the commissioners and the school districts so that the entities that are going to be in agreement for both the AEP site as well as the rest of the corporate park can all sit down and agree now, rather than waiting on the next guy who has an unusual tax situation that may favor the city, for that matter. It may turn around and they have a boatload of income tax and no property tax, and then the shoe will be on the other foot. I guess I'm disappointed that this hasn't been done in the last 12 or 10 months. And now we're sitting here in October having to agree to a compensation agreement that is clearly not good for the city. Now, whether or not you, and I am a pro-development person, I'm a pro-school person. I am not against them or the development going forward or the developer moving forward. The problem is that we've talked about this. The city has to pay for roads. The city has to pay for police protection. The city has to maintain that road to make sure AEP can even get to their site. And from what I understand, this county doesn't pay for the roads to be maintained, and the school districts don't either. So there, 50,000. I guess my reading of this, my understanding of this, is the amount that the city is going to get paid out of this deal is not enough to maintain those roads. Even though we would have to maintain those roads regardless, we don't have to maintain them to the level having now a client, a property owner on those roads. Those are going to have to be maintained at a higher level period to keep them available for AEP to use 24/7. So that's my point.
Yeah, but I,
Mr. Mayor?
hang on just one second. I don't know what we would do differently on maintaining
Well, the point is that
we don't maintain, we
point is-
maintain all roads in the city.
the point is
Whether
that
somebody lives there
on
or
100
lives there.
acres, you're going to have a certain set amount of money that you're going to receive. On 100 acres, 1/3 of that park, you're going to have a certain amount of money. You don't get to change that. That's all you're going to get, period. And we are, I guess, as I understand, we're past the point of discussing what the city will receive. And from what I understand from the commissioners' meeting this morning and from other people's statements, they believe we've been part of this negotiation from day one. And from what I understand from everybody up here, or at least from BJ, we have not. That's the point.
Mr. Barstow?
Right, I noticed and we don't jump back and forth, but in 57, there are payments by AEP to the school districts, to both school districts, part is for legal fees and other fees, and it also talks about future payments that are unspecified for sort of unspecified, the amount of the payments are unspecified and the specific uses are unspecified. So my question is to Mr. King, did the city, to the extent that we were able to have any role in this at all, did the city ever ask for those type of payments? And that's to the point of Mr. Walther that on the roads question. Okay, I was just curious. Or was it ever offered? I guess would be the other question. Okay. And I have to say too, I'm agreeing in some part with what Andy says in terms of being pro-development and wanting to get the park going. I think that, you know, he's correct. This is fixing 100 acres. It's really probably never going to be as much of a boon to the city as it is to the school districts. But that's just the way this taxing structure is set up, and it does take that part of the JRS out unless somebody else moves in if AEP ever decides they want to move out. I hope they don't, but you know, we don't know what the future is going to hold. But I think that the roads, as the road gets more use, it's going to require more maintenance, and so I know we maintain all the roads, but that's a road that's going to get more use.
Sure.
Thank you.
Any other?
Again, you have another user that's coming in. They're going to need police protection. I know for a fact that there increased police protection on the existing AEP site due to a lot of issues that have occurred over the last couple weeks. So therefore, I'm saying that this is an expense to the city that I'd like to at least understand what the other 200 acres are going to be. And if we can't get everybody to sit down, if we couldn't get everybody to sit down prior to this AEP coming to the table, we sure as heck should make sure we get everybody to the table now, because we've wasted 10 months. And this agreement should have been done 10 months ago, in my opinion.
Mr. Mayor, again, it might be helpful for council to designate a council member to accompany, or members, as their availability is, to accompany Mr. King to these negotiations and try to structure the negotiations so that there's maybe designated members from somebody from the county commissioners, somebody from the two school boards, so that there's not having a formal meeting, but we're talking about the different issues and then report back to their respective entities as to, you know, what went on and what the status is. So I agree with Andy. This has been sitting around for too long, and now we're kind of up against the wall. And hopefully, something like that, this type of situation wouldn't happen again. I certainly hope not.
Mr. Hicken?
I don't disagree with the frustration of not having it done. What I don't understand is how these changes to the untabled ordinance changes that, and so that's my biggest question with it. So,
Mr. Walther?
Well, Tim, in my eyes, I guess it's pretty obvious. We have 1/3 of the park is already spoken for. So now this agreement needs to be amended to take that into account. So those amendments to this ordinance would take that into account and reduce payments to the school district so that you could show that, yes, while the city 10 months ago, not knowing what this 100 acres was going to be, now we know what it is. So that's the purpose of that amended portion. The second part is the 100 acres that is AEP's site. as BJ has clearly stated, is not per this compensation agreement because it's not relevant to that 100 acres. So it has to have its own compensation agreement. That's the purpose of that. So I'm trying to help make sure that we don't have overlapping resolutions and ordinances first. Secondly, it's a new day, it's October now, and we have AEP looking at the 100 acres. And third, I don't want to just deal with Licking Heights. I'd like to make sure that all the entities that need to agree to this are at the table fairly and equally represented at the table so that we can come to terms, essentially, for the remainder 200 acres of the park.
So-
And quite frankly, if the other 100 acres, the AEP compensation agreement can also be worked into that, I think there is probably a very fair and equitable solution for everybody to be compensated for the work that they have to do, for the commissioners, for the reimbursement to the commissioners, for the maintenance and the police actions. There's got to be a better way to do this than what we're doing right now.
So why don't we vote ordinance 4247 down and get rid of it so you've only got two resolutions, one dealing with compensation and one with getting AEP to come here?
Go ahead.
BJ?
Oh, go ahead, Andy. I'll see what you have to say. and then
Yeah,
follow
my
up.
question would be, and I think I understand that as far as the resolution, the compensation agreement does not have to be agreed to at this point, does not have to be affirmed or approved tonight, but that the 58, the enterprise zone does. So I'm fine with that, as long as there's two compensation agreements to discuss, great, I'm fine with that. We can do it either way.
Well, I'm saying if you vote ordinance 4247 down, that gets that off the table, and then you take 57 and you start to work on it because it includes both school districts, the commissioners, and the city.
But that's only for the 100 acres.
That's only for the
Yeah.
100 acres.
Right. Yeah, it's only for
Or
those.
you could table it and leave it on the table and we could discuss it another time. I don't think I would.
Excuse me, Tom, you talking about 57, table in 57? Tom?
Not 58.
Hey, Mayor.
Mr. King?
Okay.
Ordinance 2015-4247, essentially if we turn it down, if we keep it tabled, if we amend it, I see we're ending up at the same place. If we amend this thing and make the changes that Andy said, we still have an agreement that we've approved that isn't applicable, you can't enforce it on anything because all parties haven't agreed to it. So essentially, we could change this thing all day long if we wanted to and vote for it. But until all parties agree on an agreement, it's only worth the paper that it's written on. So, I think, if we want to make amendments or whatever, we're still going to have to talk to the school districts and come to a place where we are in agreement for a resolution. If we made the amendments and we talk to the school districts, they may say we don't agree to these, or there may be different things. So, we can amend this. It's not going to carry any weight right now,
what I mean.
as long as we, if we approve it, so.
I guess that's my point on trying to eliminate some
Good.
stuff.
And the purpose of this was to have the discussion to make sure that we understood that while this right here is not agreed to by all parties, I don't think 57 was agreed to by all parties, period.
You have two confusing things on the
Exactly.
table, so. Any other discussion? Mr. King, did you have something to add?
I just recommend that we vote down 4247, get it off the agenda, and start back. We know what we want to, I think we have the basis of where we want to go, and I recommend just vote it down. We're going to end up back with a new ordinance in the future anyway, so I think for clarity's sake, just to clean it up, vote it down. It's my recommendation.
Any other discussion?
Why don't we do one other, I would have one other suggestion. I'll remove my motion to amend and put it back on the table, and we'll see what happens with the school districts and the commissioners on the other compensation agreement. That's where I'd rather be.
Okay, I'll just, Kathy, keep me straight. Your motion to amend was already
Yep. I couldn't
withdrawn.
remove it. We'd have to put it back on the table.
Correct. Got it.
Without the amendments.
Right. Got it.
That's correct.
Mr. King?
Hey, Kathy, correct me. If this remains on the table through the end of the year, does it just come off the agenda automatically?
I would like to refer to Mr. Zetz on that.
Ordinances go away after a year, don't they?
If there's no action come the end of the year, is it just white clean? since there's
I
no
don't think there's a provision in
Okay.
the council rules. I mean, it's on the table. The fact you have it on the agenda I think that's just the way we do it. I mean, it could be on the table and not be on the agenda. mean, you can resurrect it at any time.
And I would say you,
Leave resolutions and motions fall out.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay, ordinances stay. Okay, so it was backwards. I'm sorry. All right.
Thank you.
So where are we at? We leaving this? We're voting on it.
No motion yet.
Oh, don't have a motion?
You don't have a
amending
motion
right
at this
now.
Okay, yeah, I'm still in discussion, so no. What's council's pleasure?
I'll motion to put it back on the table.
Second.
Got a motion to put it, well, it's just automatically on the table, right?
Yep, there's no second. There's nothing more.
Motion to table.
Motion to table, yep. We went the long way around the barn, but good discussion. All right. So,
Are you ready for a roll call on that motion to table?
okay, yeah, roll, please.
Lee,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Carter,
Recuse myself from it.
Fox,
Recuse.
Hayes,
Recuse.
and Barstow.
Yes.
Motion to table passes. So now we're on to resolution 2016-057.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
I actually, when I changed the agenda, made 058 first and 057 second.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that when you were, must have been doing something else, I'm sorry. Resolution 2016-058, a resolution consenting to an enterprise zone agreement between the City of Pataskala, the Board of Licking County Commissioners, and AEP Ohio Transmission Company Incorporated, and authorizing the city administrator to execute the agreement.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Walton. Discussion? And roll.
Hicken,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Carter,
Recuse.
Fox,
Recuse.
Hayes,
Recuse.
Barstow,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2016-057, a resolution consenting to a compensation agreement between the City of Pataskala, Licking County, Southwest Licking Local School District, Licking Heights School District, and AEP Ohio Transmission Company, Inc., and authorizing and directing the city administrator to execute the agreement.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken,
Second. Second.
second by Mr. Lee. Discussion?
Yep. So, at this point, if we were to table this resolution, BJ, for your in your information, at least your knowledge, AEP could go forward with their package and closing in certain things with this property, this 100 acres, correct?
057 and 058 are separate resolutions. 058 was the one that the council just approved, granted the enterprise zone abatement. So that is effective now. So AEP is free to move forward, do what they need to do to start getting the project underway moving forward. 057 is separate. 057 has to deal with how the revenues from that property that has now been granted a tax abatement is going to be distributed.
Okay. A motion to table?
Got a motion to table, need a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Barstow. Resolution 057 is tabled. What's that? Yeah, roll.
Roll call.
Carter,
Recuse.
Fox,
Recuse.
Hayes,
Recuse.
Barstow,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Hicken,
No.
Walter,
Yes.
Motion passes. Okay. Okay, on to let's see, resolution and motion reports. Reports, I'll save my my stuff for last. Mrs. Carter?
I have nothing.
Mr. Zetz?
Nothing?
Mr. King?
Thanks, Mayor. I only have one thing. We have a budget workshop on October 31st. I know we have a first reading of the budget. Jamie has distributed the budget books, and we look forward to the discussion that night and answering questions about the proposed 2017 capital and operating budget. That's all I have.
Yeah, we've, I just, anything for BJ real quick?
That's all I have.
Okay. Yep. We're just getting into regular business. You folks are not required to have to stay or anything like that. And I know Mr. Lee has a pressing engagement, so.
Yeah, I'd like to respectfully ask permission to leave. My daughter's playing for an LCL championship.
Well, the rest of the,
Issue with that.
rest of our new business tonight is first reading, so you're not really going to miss anything
Okay.
anyway. So you're excused, sir.
Appreciate
and,
that.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Mr. Nicholson.
Well, now that BJ took part of my report, you all have a copy of this lovely binder with a lot of good information on the budget. As BJ mentioned, on the 31st, we'll have a budget hearing. I've extended the offer, and I'll repeat it. Anybody who wants to make arrangements, sit down with me at any time, one-on-one or two-on-one, whatever, to kind of walk through. Maybe I can give you some of the Cliff Notes version of this document. I'd be happy to do that. Just let me know date and time, and we can work something out. I am pleased to let all of you know that in today's mail, we received confirmation from the GFOA that our 2015 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, or CAFR, received the Certificate of Accomplishment for Excellence in Financial Reporting. That is our 7th consecutive year in a row to get that award, so we're quite pleased and proud about that. Again, on the agenda tonight, first reading for the budget. Also, the annual income tax allocation percentages are on the agenda as well as the supplemental. There are 3 items on the supplemental. A $400,000 transfer to the Capital Facilities Fund from the Police Fund for funding of the police facility project. $20,000 for rec programming. We're still finding items that are popping up that we weren't aware of. As an example, like a medical insurance policy that the premiums paid. Just FYI, all the expenses are covered by the registration fee, so the revenue offsets the expenses, so it's not like general fund dollars or anything like that. And then finally, there's a $30,000 item for right-of-way acquisition related to the Cleveland Avenue Taylor Road trail. And that's all I have.
That would be Cleveland Road.
Cleveland Road? Sorry.
Cleveland Avenue is in Franklin County.
I know.
We're not sending any of our dollars down to Cleveland Avenue. Yes, Mr. Walter.
Jamie, quick question. On your October 2016, the income tax revenue, you quote a 0.56% higher in October. I'm trying to do the math on that. How did you get to a 0.5% higher of collections?
In my
This is in the
you
first
said October report.
Yeah, this is in the it's in your report to council.
I'd have to look at it. I don't have it with me.
Okay, if you want to look at that.
Okay.
And then could you give us an update on your the medical insurance? Where you guys sit with that?
Medical insurance. Do you want to hit that, or you want me to? Go ahead. We have met with Frank Harmon, who's the broker with Ohio Insurance Services. We have requested to be released without penalty. We have not heard back. We've asked them to take that to the board on our behalf. The board's not going to meet until
October 28th, the board has their next board meeting, and I'll be attending.
So we've asked for that. Yes.
What would the penalty be?
Right now, the contract calls for 3 months, basically 3 months of premium, plus you take on what's called the tail, IBNR incurred but not reported. So if you go to the doctor in November, December, and the bills don't hit till January, those become the city's responsibility because the insurance, it's paid through date, not by occurrence. So there's some statistical calculations, actuarial calculations that they'll do to calculate that. I think we did receive an estimate from Frank, and I can get that to all of you shortly. But yeah, that's pretty much officially what they say. We are asking to be released, however, without that penalty.
Mr. Zetz, have you ever gone through that agreement for us?
Yes, I have. Whenever it came up last time, yes.
Okay, so is there any other way we can get out of that contract?
No, there's not.
But in addition, we're also looking at other options as part of this, other alternatives.
Is that it, Jamie?
Yeah.
Anything else for Jamie?
Just, Jamie, if you know, what would you said there's it's 3 months premium plus whatever this,
Extra.
Unfunded, who knows what that is.
Right.
So what would, just the 3 months premium, what would that be if you know?
Ballpark, it's about 60 a month, 60 grand a month, so that'd be about $180,000. So part of the math equation would be you pay that, and then if we can get significantly lower premiums,
Right.
what's the,
Right.
where's the
Right.
financial
I'm just curious as to what,
analysis work
so
out?
what the, okay.
Mr. Fox?
Yeah, and I obviously don't want you to do this tonight, but I understand between last year and this year, we're looking at about a 37.5% increase. Last year's obviously already been handled, but it's still a 37.5% increase. Can you give us the math on that when you give us the other math and see what that amount is so that we can make a good decision whether to dump this mess or not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Anything else for Jamie? Nathan?
I don't have anything new to report, but would be happy to answer any questions.
Anything for Nate?
Just a comment that I followed some product out of town the other day. I don't know if the wind was blowing right, but it wasn't as bad as the first time.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been that.
So,
That first round, the stuff that was out in the weather.
okay,
Thank you. We'll let the guys know you complimented our product.
there you go.
Anything else for Nate? Mr. Haynes?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things. Columbia Road Bridge, we did get authorized to get that, the guardrail repaired, and we did make some adjustments to the MOT out there. It's going to take them 2 to 3 weeks to get the parts and pieces fabricated, so we should be seeing that back open roughly 3 weeks. Drag patching on Mink, we've finished up there. I think that is a good improvement we made there. We'll also be doing a small amount of drag patching on Refugee in a bad area over there. And that's probably about it for this year on that. Streetlights, we're going to be doing a nighttime drive-through either tonight or tomorrow to identify any streetlights we have out and try and get those all replaced before trick-or-treat. And finally, Mill Street, the pavement repair down there is complete. Honestly, didn't turn out quite as good as I'd hoped, but that is kind of at the limit of our in-house capabilities. So.
Well, lo and behold, I turned down that street on, I think it was Sunday morning, and the gentleman that had asked us to tackle that project was out front, so I stopped to talk to him, and he was very pleased, one, that you'd done what you did, knowing that we may have some other issues with some piping in that area, but he's happy with what we've done, so that's great. Mr. Fox?
Dollar figure on the bridge on Columbia Road?
To replace the guardrail on the east side and to repair one post on the west side is $9,000.
Thank you.
You say 9?
Correct.
Thank you.
Anything? Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to also echo the mayor's compliment. I literally got tackled by the guy at soccer, telling me about how great you guys did. Said he brought some. Pardon me? Yeah, I gave him a yellow card for that.
I gave him a yellow card.
Yeah. No, he did. He was ecstatic that you guys came by and got that done for him, and he's ready for the winter, so I appreciate that.
Suzanne?
Status on light poles and electric on Main Street.
We are still waiting on AEP to get us an agreement.
Hey, where'd they go anyway?
At least every other week.
We tried that route.
We call.
Different vision.
I guess in my mind, the good news on that is it's more of a visual enhancement than anything that's lacking in infrastructure, but we still are pressing them.
Okay. Is there any way for a public relations pitch to the Main Street residents or community, just so the negativity stops with the why on earth would we put one set of lights on one side of the street versus another set on the other?
I had never envisioned it was going to take this long to get that agreement with AEP. We can certainly do that. My intent was to get the agreement with AEP because the problem was the 10-foot easement So we're working with them to make it mostly in the right-of-way with a 2-foot easement, which is a lot more palatable. I anticipated that taking a small amount of time and then having a public meeting with the residents and AEP president so we could clear the topic, I guess. But like I said, it's taken a little bit longer than anticipated.
Even something on the city Facebook page, just, I mean, obviously, we don't have to give too much information, but just to let people know that it is a work in progress and that we're not planning on leaving 2 completely different sets of lights up on our main street. Thank you.
Mr. King?
We have the mailing list for folks down there that we've mailed to before, so we can get something out to them.
Thank you.
Anything else for Alan? Yes, sir.
What's going on with the house at Mink and Broad? Oh,
Mr. King.
The house at Mink and Broad has become more difficult. The gentleman who owns it, I'm told, fell and is not doing well. I heard he is in a coma. And the family is working with the realtor. I am in touch with the realtor and hoping that they can, the family can move this forward for us. He can't do anything right now. I mean,
It's busy.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to get any hopes up. There's at least a possibility. We're trying to work with the Shelley Company. There's the potential they can get back out there and at least do the work on the south side of the road and get the pavement in better condition and striping. We still wouldn't have the signal up, but we're hoping that we can work that out with them for yet this fall.
Because there could be work done on the other corners, correct? And just wait for...
On the south side, we could do work down there, and I believe we can get most, if not all, of the pavement at least in a good shape. We won't get thermoplastic paint at this time of the year, but at least we could get some striping that is better than what we have out there and pavement that's better than what we have.
And you're hoping that can still happen in this calendar year?
So I don't want to get anybody's hopes up, but fingers are crossed we are having those discussions.
Yeah. Orange barrels are driving me nuts. Anything else for Alan? Mr. Fulton?
Thank you, sir. I have nothing really new to report, but be happy to answer any questions on my report.
I just want to say that, oh, go ahead, Mr. Fox.
I just want to make a comment that there were lots of signs in the right-of-way, and Steve did a wonderful job getting them picked up and getting them taken care of. I do have one question, and while we're here, and Mr. Zetz can answer us, because we've been playing phone tag all week about some of this stuff. There's a 4-foot, actually, there are now 3 4-foot by 8-foot signs in the city of Pataskala. Nowhere does our sign code permit a 4-foot by 8-foot sign. My question to Mr. Zetz is, did you have the opportunity to review the case law? And are we, my understanding is we are permitted to limit the size of signs, although we are not permitted to limit the amount of time. But certainly, you're the law director, and you could have a much better answer for me.
I've talked to Steve actually about this quite a bit last week. I'll talk to you after the meeting about it.
Okay, thank you. And thanks,
Scott.
Steve, for all the work you did. Sorry.
Good.
Suzanne?
I just wanted to thank Scott. Had a former student of mine, 3rd grade and 4th grade. 2 years I looped with him, senior at OU, and Scott graciously welcomed him in and spent some time with him. He is a Main Street resident, Pataskala resident, and he is going to be volunteering in Scott's office, and Scott took some time to welcome him, and he's going to volunteer in the office in December, I believe, during OU's break.
Yes, ma'am.
And come back after graduation. So Max stopped by to fill me in, spent an hour talking about how excited he was. It was one of the neatest blessings of being a teacher in the community is to have a student come back as a senior in college and share with me. Very excited to work with the city and volunteer. So thank you.
Of course, yeah, he stopped in, and there's a lot you can learn from books, but there's a lot you can learn from being in a job and seeing the day-to-day things. So it was nice to be able to help somebody with the same degree, because there's not a whole lot of us. I think when I graduated college, there was 30 with the same degree. So it's one of those, if I could help him, and when he starts to look for jobs, if there's something that can help him with his resume and the day-to-day things, I'm more than happy to help.
I appreciate a Miami grad helping an OU student. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Scott, I noticed down at 299 Broad Street, there's a lot of activity there at the, what used to be an automotive repair shop.
Yes.
And then I noticed on here that there's a November 8th hearing for them to get a conditional use there.
Yes.
Do they have the ability to be working out of there now?
They can work in there, but they cannot conduct commercial activity. So if there's certain things they need to do, and I know talking with Mr. Coey that they're working on getting backflow prevention and some of those things, they can do work to the building.
Right, to the building, but not to automotives, correct?
No, they cannot.
There seems to be quite a
conduct-
few automotives there, different automotives on different days. I'm just letting you guys know that I'm seeing that if you guys haven't noticed that.
Okay, we will follow up and take a look.
Okay.
Mr. Fox?
Yeah, Scott, on that same issue, I know that there were some issues with building code and the county on that. Are we permitted to go forward with an occupancy permit without approval from zoning code?
The city.
I mean, from the county code?
Licking County.
The city of Pataska, this is, the city would use certificate of compliance and certificate of occupancy interchangeably. And it became an issue because folks would get their certificate of occupancy from the county, and then we'd have to say you need one from us. So we've started to call it a certificate of compliance. That being said, we can go forward and allow them, they can apply for a conditional use in order to occupy or run their business from that location. Also, after they get a conditional use, they'll be required to get a certificate of compliance. So any requirements or conditions placed upon the application by the Board of Zoning Appeals, at that point prior to the issuance of the certificate of compliance, those items would need to be addressed. And from the hearing we had, was it last year, early this year, things where they didn't get building permits, fire inspections, things of that nature, I would highly assume that those items will be conditions of approval to make sure that there's not a portion of the building that is unsafe, that doesn't have permits, that we don't have fire inspections or backflow prevention. So all those outstanding issues from the previous person who was operating the business from that location will be addressed in the current application.
Thank you.
Anything else for, yes, sir.
What happened to Henkel's and McCoy there on Broad Street? It looks like it looks like it's abandoned. I don't think they went out of business, or?
I can answer that. They moved everybody to a major project out west. The project out west fell, and they right now are just running a skeleton crew out of there.
Okay.
They still do business there. They're just running a skeleton crew.
Okay, I was just curious. Thank you.
Anything else for Scott? Just want to say, between Jamie and Alan and Nate and Scott, I do enjoy your reports because a lot of times now, after reading those, they answer the questions that I get on a sometimes daily basis, weekly basis, so I don't have to bother you guys. Everything's being covered from A to Z. I appreciate the reports. I really do.
Thanks, guys.
Chief Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have one item. I just want to remind everybody that Trick or Treat is October 29th, starting at 5:30. We've changed some schedules around, so we'll have some extra cars out just to make sure everybody stays safe.
Very good. Anything for Bruce?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I just want to thank the chief and the department for their assistance in my neighborhood, that situation, and time will tell what's going to happen. But on behalf of the homeowners association, I can tell you that the citizens are very appreciative. Thank you.
Very good. Any committee chair reports? Mr. Hicken.
We did not have a specific committee meeting, but as was pointed out at the last meeting, one of the tasks that still sits before the utility committee is a visitation on rates. It's required by I want to say, Nathan, you want to help me? There is an ordinance that says that we need to at least address it. So I'm looking at probably maybe the second week in November. I don't know if that fits with your guys' schedule. I push it to there only because I know ultimately, we need to visit and discuss the subject of rates. I don't think that necessarily it's going to be implemented in the following year, but also with all the budget stuff going on, I didn't want to try and shoehorn it in. So I'm not a committee chair right now, so I need to have the mayor recognize you if you're going to talk.
Mr. Fox?
I was going to say Mr. Fox, but I'm no, I can't recognize you. That's the mayor's job.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask at that same meeting, you could bring up a tap fee increase, to consider some tap fee increases. It was brought up recently about the infrastructure improvements and things that we need.
Agreed.
Had a conversation with Nate. I think he kind of thinks that might be a good route to talk about. So if we can put that on the agenda, I'm good. In November 15th, I have a all-day meeting for the Wildlife Council. And if anybody on the Ag Committee or anybody on council is interested in going to the Wildlife Council meeting with me, I'm pretty sure we probably could still get in since it's a month away. So if anybody has any interest in that, but that would be the only day that would not be a good day for me.
And November is one of those weird months. I'm probably looking maybe the second or the third, because the Monday doesn't fall until the 7th. That would let us talk in case something were to come up before the actual committee meeting on the 7th. But I think I'll just do it by either text or email with you and Mr. Walther once we tighten it down, and then get with Kathy. And of course, Nathan and BJ. Thank you.
Okay. Any other committee chair reports? Okay, seeing none, I'm just gonna jump back to me real quick so I can get through this. Do we know where we're at on the discharge map? Was that updated for this year? Yes, sir.
Not to interrupt, we have looked at some of the outstanding issues, and Mr. Fox has been in our office and met with Zach. We're looking to potentially for 2017 have a completely revised map to look at. So whenever the Agricultural Committee wants to hold a meeting, we can go through that with them. So by the first of the year, we'll have something ready to go.
Mr. Fox?
I think that being said, this year we're okay for that.
Okay.
I mean, we didn't have any other big
The
developments.
current map is okay then?
It's,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, there's some errors on it, but it's fine the way it is right now.
Very good. Thank you both. Since Dr. Wagner's here, I just have a question about your trunk or treat. Is that coming up this Friday? Could you give us a time on that, please?
Yes, it is this Friday. Time I have to check. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Okay. 5:30 at which school?
South.
South?
Yeah, and it'll be outside, so as the name talks about, trunk or treat, so anyone's welcome.
Okay. That's just kind of an invitation to council. If you guys want to head over there, I'm going to try and be there at 5:30 on Friday at South. Very good. Thank you, sir. Spoke with the Eagle Scout last week. He has surpassed his money raising for the cannon. The pad's already been poured, so I would imagine Memorial Day we will be dedicating the Civil War cannon down at Veterans Green. So he raised $2,500 pretty darn quick. So yes, sir.
Did we figure out a way for it to shoot?
It can. There's going to be a part that they're going to take out. That, if we want to shoot it at fireworks or something, maybe we could do something. But
Mayor, will he be putting we talked about a fence.
Yes, the black wrought iron fence will go around the pad once the cannon is placed there.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Let's see. And I'm going to be passing around a card for Mr. Brush. Many of you remember Bernie Brush, a longtime councilman. His mother passed away, so normally we don't do a whole lot of stuff for past councilmen, but I'd like to get a card out to him, so if you would sign that, please. Not only did Bernie lose his mom, but we lost Mr. Flagel, Marvin Flagel, and his funeral is, I believe, Thursday night.
In Johnstown.
In Johnstown?
There's one in Johnstown and one at Cobber.
Oh, there's 2 visitations? Okay. Okay, I did not know that, so check your local listings and make sure before you, okay. And Louis doing better? Okay. And we missed, I'm sorry?
On the mend.
He's on the mend, drinking lots of water? Good. And we missed a couple of birthdays. Oh, BJ's not in the room. He turned 32. And Mr. Haynes, you're 26, 27? What's that? Okay,
Is that
very
today?
good. So happy birthday to both of you. November 5th, this is outside of the city, but Connie's Cuts, who has a salon in Pataskala, is opening a second one in Etna. November 5th, ribbon cutting. If you're interested, let me know, and I'll give you the details. We started our, I don't know how many we've done, but last Thursday night was the first night for the latest Citizens Police Academy, and we've got 10 or 12 people that signed up for that, so that's very popular. Friday, November 11th will be our Veterans Day celebration with the American Legion and the Boy Scouts, and I'm sure we'll have our singer there to do our national anthem, and of course we read the names of the vets.
What time?
That would be at, I believe it's 5:30. I'll be sending that out to you as I get, this is all contingent on our older veterans in the American Legion letting me know when they can do this and their availability. But, and I'll be looking for a motion tonight, please. The Scouts would like to do a flag retirement ceremony at Foundation Park on the 11th. And they would also like permission to camp out that night in Foundation Park on the Power Show side, where we always allow camping when you guys let us do that. So I'll be looking for a motion for that tonight. And that is all I have. We'll go on to new business. Ordinance 2016-4270 for a first reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Fox.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Hicken. Kathy, when you're ready.
Ordinance 2016-4270. This is the first reading, an ordinance to rezone property located at 7,000 Creek Road, parcel number 064-068808-02.000, totaling 4.3 acres in the city of Pataskala from the current zoning, agricultural ag, to medium-density residential R20 zoning classification.
Okay, any discussion? Ordinance 2016-4271. Would you like me to read this for you?
Yes, if you
Okay.
don't mind.
I need a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Fox.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Barstow. This is a first reading, an ordinance to make appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Pataskala, state of Ohio, during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2017, and to authorize approved inter-fund transfers. Any discussion? Ordinance 2016-4272 for a first reading.
So moved.
Moved
Second.
by Mr. Hicken and seconded by Mr. Barstow. First reading, an ordinance amending ordinance 2015-4244, establishing the allocation of income tax collections received by the city of Pataskala pursuant to ordinance 2010-3959. Any discussion? Ordinance 2016-4273 for a first reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Fox, seconded by Mr. Barstow. First reading, an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2016. Any discussion? Okay. Any additional citizens' comments? If you wish to speak tonight, you have 3 minutes, and we would like you to keep the topic on what we've discussed tonight. So anybody wish to speak? Dr. Wagner? Name and address, please, and what kind of classic car you drive.
6539 Summit Road Southwest, Pataskala, 2016 Ford Fusion.
hybrid. Is that good? Hey, just a couple things. A lot of confusion tonight, and we need to make sure we work together. I can give some context to some things, specifically probably more to Mr. Walther's concerns. I'm going to roll the clock back. There was some discussion this evening about, the tabled resolution and then as well as the current issues. Project Curie, let's bring that up. Project Curie was in both corporate parks that Licking Heights was involved with. There was a conflict of interest. We couldn't go forward and talk about one without the other. Having said that, we also, when we have multiple corporate parks, we have to make sure that we're fair and equitable between those corporate parks. So that's a discussion point. It's nothing more than that. Now, to the point about, trying to get this back on the table, some discussion, yeah, we all need to do that. We certainly do. But like anything else, we can all give you 10 reasons why that wasn't done, and other things become a priority, but this becomes a priority. Regarding the timeline questions, Licking Heights did not approve anything before the compensation agreement was shared. In fact, the compensation agreement was given to Licking Heights as part of a larger effort, and then we responded to that. City's role in the process, my understanding is the city was very involved in that, although that would exceed my mandate and understanding of what the city is involved with. I will offer you this. And I believe this goes to attorney-client privilege, so I'm not really certain, nor can I speak to this, but we were able to convene the two school districts, Southwest Licking and Licking Heights, on two separate occasions. We convened executive session, worked through these issues. We were able to invite different members into that executive session, including the county commissioners and city representatives, and my understanding is the city couldn't be represented because of an understanding of that. I will tell you that commissioners entered into that executive session. That is public information. But that provided one of the venues, and this all occurred prior to any kind of vote. If there has been any sticking point, I would say, in these compensation agreements, if you roll the clock back, it's been about the JED. I would tell you that it's something, again, it would exceed my mandate. I'll use that phrase to represent Southwest Licking, but we've worked very closely on matters. The JED was approved prior to the income tax, so that's a discussion point that I know Licking Heights would like to discuss, as well as I would imagine Southwest Licking would. I think Mr. Hicken or someone mentioned about a good idea to form a team or some constituencies. I highly encourage that. We use a board committee structure. I would think that's a good idea. We've had representatives. I'm concerned because AEP just walked out the door a short time ago. I think it was well articulated early on about the importance in what we're conveying here tonight. Not to sound arrogant, but Southwest Licking as well as Licking Heights both have corporate parks already outside of Pataskala. And we're working with those corporate parks. We wanted to make this work. I'm going to say one last thing here, probably outside the bounds, but I would encourage you to even think about pulling that tabled resolution off tonight, and let's sit down and talk about it. I have some authority. I have 2 school board members. We have Southwest Licking, 2 school board members. I would recommend you pull it off, convene a recess if you need to. Let's sit down and talk, whatever venue it has to be in. But we even have the County Economic Development Director here as well. Highly recommend that, guys. That would be a nice message to go back, because I don't want to receive the phone call from AEP, and I'm sure Southwest Licking doesn't either, that they're ready to go in one of the other corporate parks. We're prepared to make sure this works in Pataskala, in the Pataskala Corporate Park. Finally, I will tell you, there's a lot of misunderstanding about the compensation agreement, what's statutory, what's allowed. The compensation agreement, that is not that much money, as you had stated, for the city. More has been provided than what would have been provided for the regular model. So again, I guess I'm going to highlight that if you're ready to talk tonight, we would do this tonight. I think that would be a great message. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Yes, sir.
Very shortly.
You have 3 minutes. Name and address again, please.
Paul Marks, 345 Edenderry Lane. I think it may be imprudent to base your sole decision on a clear dollar basis of, does somebody go into that park and do they pay dollar for dollar what it might cost you to operate? And not considering the overall development, who's there, what they offer for future development. Maybe short-sighted to say that AEP won't pay the income tax that will pay for the road, because I'm sure there's other situations where some element of the city doesn't pay full benefit for city services. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Eileen DeRolf, 12520 Refugee Road, Pataskala, Ohio. I just find it really just disturbing that everybody is asking you all to just not worry about the amount. And I guess I would turn that around and say, what if the school systems were only going to make $500,000, in the case of the one of them, instead of $5 million? Would they be so hot for this agreement? I'm just having a really hard time looking at the differences in the revenues and just how little you make. And somehow you are supposed to discount that as unimportant. But I can't think they would discount it if they were in your shoes. So you talk about a win-win. They are like horses that cleared the starting gate, and you're still standing there for 10 strides. I don't see the win there unless you're a whale of a horse and can make up that difference. And if there are no guarantees, you're going to have the losing ride. So I just think that when you sit down and talk, if there's got to be some give and take, I don't see what they're taking from you. Because if they take it from you, I don't see that you have anything left. So I'm cool with taking, but I think they got to give some of theirs so that you have enough to make this worth moving forward on. And just fairness. I'm a fair girl, and I don't see the fairness in this. So I'm standing with my original respectfully ask you to get a better deal for this city, because there are tremendous demands on this city, and they are only going to get greater. And the bottom line is you've got to have the money to make those demands, get those demands met. So thank you again for the time.
Okay. Anybody else wish to speak? All right. Well, let's see. We'll go around the room. Mr. Fox.
You always start with me. I'm not ready. Can you start at the other end?
Okay. Mrs. Hayes.
Awesome. All right. I'm always ready. I got it. All right. I would like to thank I'd like to thank Mr. Hicken for taking some time last week. He educated 300 plus third graders from Pataskala Elementary in this room. They came in to study local government. And from what I hear from the staff at Pataskala, you did a fantastic job doing a mock council lesson. Kids were up here. I got a lot of pictures throughout the day sent to me from my colleagues, and a lot of smiles from kids just sitting up here being a part of a real council experience. So 300 plus kids that came through this building and learned what local government does. So that was fun and kind of exciting for me too, because they came back and they wanted to know. I had one child in particular in the cafeteria ask me what I did to get elected, and I told him all about the whole process in the cafeteria of the Board of Elections and petitions. And he goes, "No, did you hold a sign that said honk for Hicken?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't." So some great stories. So I just want to thank you and thank the city for opening up council chambers. Second, kudos to the Pataskala Library. I got an email last week, from Williamson County in Franklin, like near Franklin, Tennessee. It's near Nashville. They had seen our story walk down at the municipal park on the Friends of the Library, kind of a circuit, an email that goes through. And I had a lady call me and ask what we did down at our park and how we were promoting literacy. And I spent an hour on the phone with the county health department, and they picked my brain and wanted to know what our process was the last 4 years. And it was just a really awesome experience to see that our Pataskala Story Walk had made it all the way down to the health department in Tennessee, and that they too wanted to replicate what we were doing. So good things to share. I can't end the meeting. I'm sorry. I have to pass it on.
And I just want to say, Mr. Hicken, thank you for, Dan Hayes used to do that by bringing the kids in here, and I was hoping that wouldn't go away. So a very energetic crowd. I think you ramped it up a little bit.
Cartwheels.
Hammed it up a little bit. I'm not sure which one, but you could tell that those kids were really enjoyed learning about city council. So thank you very much. Mr. Walther?
Okay. First, I would like to thank the city staff for a very successful first season for soccer. One more week, I know it's been trying, Jamie, sorry, but we're getting it done. So that's the good news. And, they've had a really great 7 weeks, well, 8 weeks if you include the power show, 8 weeks of weather. It's been an unbelievable fall for them. Second, I want to address some things out of the audience. I don't know that you guys all know my background. I'm very much a development person. I very much understand the agreements and different things that are put forward. And I will say to Dr. Wagner, I would be more than happy to sit down as part of the city team to open up the avenues of discussion of this. This isn't something that can't be discussed or can't be worked out. I don't know that tonight's the right venue. I can't answer that part, but I will tell you that I think there are some real clear ways to get this accomplished. So I appreciate your comments, as far as what the issues are. But when you see it on black and white as it is today, there are some things we definitely would like to sit back down with the school districts and make sure we get worked out for the future. Because really, quite frankly, what happened back a year ago, that's past. We can't live it with, that's something we have to get past now to move forward with the rest of this corporate park. So I'm hopeful that we can do that. And then last, I wanted to just mention if your prayers would be with Ann. Ann had a good friend of hers die last night. So just if you'll keep her in your thoughts. So that's all I have.
Very good. Mrs. Carter?
I would just thank everybody for coming out and expressing your opinions and thoughts. It is appreciated. And probably the most important thing we need to talk about tonight is how wonderful Councilman Higgin looks in maroon and gold. And that I think want to keep the jersey. I mean,
No, he will wash it and give it back.
he keeps
Go
making
Warriors.
a bet knowing. So
I'm sorry, was my microphone too close?
just saying.
I didn't have to recuse myself from that comment.
Mr. Beefcake Hornet, number 64.
I consider my debt for this particular year paid. Reminder that on, first of all, let me say really quick that it was a joy, and thank you very much for the people that said kind things about the third graders. It was awesome. 2 separate classes asked me if Michael Fox is Michael J. Fox, which I thought was rather funny. So I had to say no. It really was it was a good time, and so
Plus 100 pounds.
On a reminder that on October 22nd is the station number 1 open house for the firehouse. There'll be all kinds of activities there. I believe Life Flight is going to fly in, so that should be exciting. That is on the 22nd. I'd like to make a motion for a flag retirement ceremony at Foundation Park to include open burning, I believe is what I need to do there.
Second.
And camping.
And camping.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Hickens, second by Mr. Fox. Discussion?
I would have one discussion item.
Okay.
Just do it quickly. I think the last time I made a motion that people could camp, there was a lot of people that camped, and I would like to keep an eye on. I mean, obviously, this is,
We also need to define camping. That's not RVs. That's
Temporarily.
tents and that kind of camping.
Yeah,
correct?
typical Boy Scout camping is
Good.
what I'm.
Okay.
So,
Sure.
that's my only discussion.
Really? We had RVs in the woods, Mike, during Power Show.
Yeah, on the Power Show side, we've always been allowed to have camping over there because it's not disturbing the soccer fields or, we've always had.
We can talk about that later.
Topic for another evening.
Topic for another one, but I got that.
Campers in the woods
Can you
probably
hear
isn't
that?
a good idea.
This would be Boy Scouts.
This is for the Boy Scout flag retirement.
If the Boy Scouts can drive a camper in, then I'm for it.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
They could build one.
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Fox?
Yes.
Hayes?
Yes.
Barstow?
Yes.
Lee?
Motion passes.
Finally, last item, I would agree with what Andy said about how important it is. I don't know, given the fact that one of the 4 people that can usually sit down and discuss this stuff is not here, that making a motion to pull it back off the table and discuss it is necessarily warranted. But I think it's incredibly important.
Yeah, it's
And nobody thinks that more than I, or at least I put myself in that group of people that thinks that it is. So that's all for me.
Mr. Barstow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, unfortunately, Dr. Wagner, we've lost our quorum with the absence of Mr. Lee. So we can't, although we can sit down and discuss, we can't take any action. Because I think it's important, too. I think that, to be completely frank, this is a very good deal for AEP. They're getting a 75, essentially what amounts to a 75% abatement on taxes. I would like to see something set up where when we have these agreements that are proposed, where there is officially a council member or council members who can meet with a designated school board member or members to discuss how this is going to get how the money is going to get divided up, because when it comes down to it, that's what we're talking about here. We have to run the city, and we have to have money to do that. You have the school, and you have to have money to run the school. So, but I'm with Mr. Walther, and I don't know how Mr. Lee feels about this, but I'm with Mr. Walther in terms of trying to get this restructured. And I think what we're talking about is not getting rid of the compensation agreement. I think it's not going to have any effect. What I'm thinking, it won't have any effect on AEP in terms of dollars. I think it'll have the effect will be on the government entities that are involved in this and how the monies are going to be divided. I think that's what I'm thinking about. And I want to correct something that somebody said from the audience, talking about how AEP pays income tax. They pay income tax on any corporate profits, but they don't pay the income tax on their employees. That 1% tax is money that their employees don't get because it's remitted to the city. It doesn't come out of AEP's pocket. It comes out of the pockets of the people who work there. And the public should know that the JED tax, part of the JED tax, is designed to reimburse the schools and other tax entities who miss out on tax payments because of abatements. That's my understanding. So that the schools get a share of the JED tax. So the JED income tax.
Okay. Let's.
I think that is correct. That's the way I read the JED agreement, and that's so.
Well,
read the agreement.
Yeah, let's.
I'm going to get fined. I don't want to.
Yeah, well, we all know that we're going to be sitting down and ironing this out. It's top priority, so we're not going to have to worry about that. Mr. King.
Well, I recommend now, I feel more comfortable with us talking about this, that council decide who they want that team to be. Is that appropriate, Mr. Zetz? I mean, typically, anytime we designate this stuff, we have council.
We don't have enough people to vote.
Mr. Zetz?
As long as we don't have a quorum of council, I mean, I don't know if you're going to set up some subcommittee. I don't know what you plan on doing or how you plan on doing it, but.
We normally, pick 2 or 3 people to assist?
Right.
You in going to these meetings and
Yes.
setting it up?
Yes.
So that the school's involved, the commissioners are involved, everybody's
Correct.
involved, and then those 3 representatives, if they can make the meeting, go with you to the meeting.
Knowing that 3 must recuse themselves from those, correct?
They have to recuse themselves.
We have to recuse ourselves from the discussion, but not from choosing who gets to be on the committee.
No, not, I'm saying being part of those discussions with the school district. You know what I'm saying?
His question is, could Suzanne and Melissa and Mr. Fox be able to be on these committees to at least discuss, as long as they don't
Can't even
vote?
vote to appoint them.
Can't, but we can be a part of the discussion about who gets to be on the
Exactly.
committee.
I
No,
agree with
why?
Melissa.
Okay.
Why would it make any difference?
We can choose,
It's still going to affect our decision because we do business with them, potentially.
not if we're not the ones in the room making the agreement.
But if we're picking the ones that go in the room, I know which ones I want to pick. Do
Me
you?
too, yeah.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. We're biased already.
No, we're not biased,
Sure,
we're
it's biased.
balancing.
Yeah, couldn't.
All right.
Mr.
No, it would
Zetz.
be biased,
Mr.
but
Zetz.
that's a,
Okay.
It's your call, Mr.
foregone
Zetz.
conclusion.
Ladies and gentlemen. So, we're going to pick somebody tonight?
I suggest we hold.
I just
I
wanted
don't
to
know
hear
the
what-
answer to that, to be honest with
Okay.
you. If you actually can participate in that level of the discussion or not, I'll be honest, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, you'll get that answer for
I
us.
absolutely will.
All right. Thank you, sir. Anything else, Mr. Barstow? Nope. Mr. Fox?
It is rut season. That's when the bucks are chasing the does around, and they're really going to be out in the road a lot more. So I know the police department will be up on top of that, but be careful out there. They're starting to act a little funny as the fields get cut and everything. And motion to adjourn.
Got a motion by
Second.
Mr. Fox, seconded by Mrs. Hayes. We got that one in there. Discussion and roll.
Walter?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Fox?
Yes.
Hayes?
Yes.
Barstow?
Yes.
Lee? Hickman?
Yes. Meeting adjourned.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, it's 62%. I was like, I can't make this number work no matter what I do to it. It does not come out.
No, that's 62%. I have no idea where that came from.